Quiet. Consider 11x plus 9 minus what would equal 6x plus 10? Okay, well, if you've got 11x plus 9, they want to know which one of these binomials down here would you need to subtract from that to equal 6x plus 10. Okay, well, just take it one thing at a time. 11x minus what equals 5 or equals 6x? 11x minus 5x will give you a 6x, right? So it has to start with a positive 5x, which eliminates C and D. And then 9 minus what equals 10? A negative 1. Because a minus a negative would become plus, and 9 plus 1 would give you that 10, so it's B. Well, they're letting me know that something's missing right here, and you're filling in the one that's missing. 11x minus, you get it now? Okay, now turn in your packet to page 6. Turn around. The directions at the top say, find a polynomial expression for the area of the rectangle shown. How do you find the area of a rectangle, Marcus? How do you find the area of a rectangle? Multiply what? Length times width. What is the length? I mean, yeah, you could I normally call the longer side the length, but it doesn't really matter because when you multiply two things, does the order matter? What property says that when you multiply two things, the order doesn't matter? Commutative. Commutative property says that when you multiply two things, it doesn't matter what order you put them in. What other property is commutative? Addition. Okay, so that's the length, and now we're going to multiply it by the width, which is what? How do you multiply two binomials? You distribute. 4x times x is 4x times 3 is negative 9 times x is, and negative 9 times 3 is. Now we need to simplify it by combining like terms. 12x and 9x are both just x to the first power. So they can be combined and you subtract them, which yes will become a positive 3x. And so that's your area, you're done. Okay, number 2. We're trying to find the area of this rectangle, so we multiply its length times its width. What is its length? And then what is its width? Okay, now I just want to talk about something so that when you get to geometry or algebra 2 and you have a different teacher, you're not confused. How many of you have heard the word FOIL before? Y'all FOIL? Yeah, okay, well, that's what double distribution is. Okay, look. This is F for first, O for outside, I for inside, or some teachers call them outer, inner, and then L for last. Think about it. When I double distribute, I start with this 2x, and I first distribute it to the x. Well, isn't the 2x and the x the very first thing in each binomial? So you're multiplying the first things together. Then you distribute the 2x to the negative 10. Aren't those terms the outside terms of the whole problem? Then you distribute the 5 to the x, and aren't those the inside terms of the whole problem? And then you distribute the 5 to the negative 10, and those are the last ones in each binomial. So double distribution is FOIL. It's just I don't call it FOIL. Okay, 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times negative 10 is negative 20x. 5 times x is positive 5x. And 5 times negative 10 is negative 50. Now we need to combine like terms, and so it'll be 2x squared minus 15x, because those two combine to a negative 15, and then minus 50, and then that's the answer. Shh, not right now, not right now. Number 3. Before I try to calculate the area of this one, what should I do first? Well, I need to simplify the width. I need to go ahead and distribute out that 4 and simplify this to what? 12. Now I do the area, which is the length of x plus 1 times the width of 4x minus 12. And then I just either FOIL, if you want to call it that, or double distribute, if you want to call it that. X times 4x is 4x squared. X times negative 12 is negative 12x. 1 times 4x is 4x. And 1 times negative 12 is negative 12. And so the area is 4x squared minus 8x minus 12. Okay, number 4 is a little bit different, because in number 4 it says, given the area of x squared plus 13x plus 40, find the missing side. So this time they gave you the length of x plus 8, but they did not give you the width. So you need to figure out what the width needs to be to make this the area. Well, x times what would give you that x squared? And 8 times what would give you the 40? Positive 5. Now let's just make sure the rest of it works out. So the x times x gives you the x squared. X times 5 gives you 5x. 8 times x gives you 8x. And 8 times 5 gives you 40. And when you combine like terms, do you get that 13x in the middle? Yes, that makes the 13x. So x plus 5 is the missing side. Okay, now try number 5. Is negative 6x, and then when you combine those, you do get that negative 21x. So the missing side was 3x minus 6. Yeah. Okay. Let me just start it over. You are trying to figure out what binomial you need to multiply by the x plus 9 to give you this as your area. Well, what times x gives you 3x squared? 3x. And what times 9 gives you negative 54? Negative 6. Okay, turn to the next page. Okay, a garden is divided into sections. The number of tulips in each section depends on the number of sprinklers in that section. In a section with x sprinklers, there are 5x squared plus 10x pink tulips. And there are x plus 6 squared purple tulips. Which simplified expression represents the total number of pink and purple tulip plants in a section with x sprinklers? So what do they want you to do with the two expressions they've given you? Okay, what does that mean? Add. Whenever they say total, they want you just to add them up. Okay? Well, before you can add these, what has to be done first? You have to simplify this one, right? Because technically, aren't there 2 of those sitting right there, Marcus? So what do we need to do? Distribute out that. When I distribute out that, it'll become x squared. Okay, I'm going to skip a step. So look. Plus 6x plus another 6x, which is 12x, and then plus 36. Now I will add it to the first expression that represented pink tulips. And so for these, I'm just combining like terms. So 5x squared can be added to what? And that makes a 6x squared. And then 10x can be added to, and that makes a 22x. And then 36 is the only constant, so that's choice B. Okay, now let's try number 7. Number 7, the two expressions they gave you were x squared plus 47x and 2x plus 7 squared. Well, they want you to find the total number of area A and B. Well, total means add them up. But before we can actually add these, this one needs to be simplified because 2x plus 7 squared means 2x plus 7 times 2x plus 7. So you've got to distribute twice. And that becomes 4x squared plus 28x plus 49. Now we're going to add that to the x squared plus 47x. X squared plus 4x squared is 5x squared. 47x plus 28x is 75x. And then plus 49, which is choice D. Okay, once you've copied that, flip over to page 10. What we are learning the rest of this week is called factoring. Okay? You being able to factor will depend on you being able to find two numbers that multiply to make one number and add to another. So we're going to practice these for the rest of class today, and what you don't finish in class is your homework. But I'm about to do 2 full columns with you. Okay, so let's look at number 1. I'm looking for 2 numbers. And these 2 numbers must multiply to a positive 10 and add to a positive 7. What 2 numbers do that? Right. 5 times 2 equals 10. 5 plus 2 equals 7. All right, now number 2. What 2 numbers multiply to 8 and add to 6? Correct. 4 times 2 equals 8. 4 plus 2 equals 6. Number 3. What 2 numbers multiply to a 2 and add to a 3? Right? 2 times 1 is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. Number 4. What 2 numbers multiply to 6, add to 7? 6 and 1. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. Okay, the reason you couldn't use 2 and 3 is because while it multiplies to give you a 6, it does not add to give you a 7. Okay, number 5. What numbers multiply to give you 20 and add to give you 12? 2 and 10. Number 6. What numbers multiply to give you 25 and add to give you 10? 5 and 5. Okay, now go to the next page. Let's go to some that are a little tougher. Okay, whenever you're dealing with negatives, I want you to wait and worry about the sign last. First, just tell me some numbers that multiply to 10. Do you think you could get a 3 from a 5 and a 2? Yes, because they're 3 units apart. If you do a 2 minus 5, isn't that a negative 3? And a 2 times a negative 5 is a negative 10. Yes. They have to be, both have to be identical. Okay, number 14. What are some numbers that multiply to give you 40? Okay, are you going to get a 13 when you add a 10 and a 4? So what are some other numbers that multiply to 40? 8 and 5. Okay, but if you're adding these numbers and they need to add up negative 13, they both need to be negative. Negative 8 plus negative 5 equals negative 13, and negative 8 times negative 5 equals positive 40. All right, number 15. What are some numbers that multiply to give you 16? 4 and 4. But to add up to give you a negative 8 and still multiply to a positive, they both need to be negative. Number 16. What are numbers that multiply to give you a 14? 7 and 2. Once you get the numbers, then think about the signs. How do you get a 5 out of those? Which one needs to be the negative 2 to get a 5? 7 minus 2 is 5. 7 times negative 2 is negative 14. Had you made this the negative and added them, it would have equaled a negative 5, not a positive 5. Okay, number 17. Okay, let's try 25 and 2. But right, I heard somebody say that both of them need to be negative so that when you add them, you get a negative 27, and when you multiply them, you get a positive 50. Because a negative times a negative is a positive. All right, number 18. What are some numbers that multiply to give you 45? 9 and 5. And when you add those two numbers, what would you need to do to make them add up to a negative 4? A negative 9. Right, if you want to go in the negatives, the bigger number needs to be the negative one. Okay, if you want to go into the negatives, the bigger number needs to be negative. If you want your answer to be positive, then you need the bigger number to be positive. All right, number 19. What are numbers that multiply to 18? Okay, now let's talk about signs. We know to multiply and get a negative, one of these has to be negative, but which one does it need to be? Negative 6, so that when you add them, you get a negative 3. Do you understand how to do this? You must finish all 50 of them. They're on pages 10 through 13. We just did some of those. You still have about 17 minutes of class time. Oh, no, we wasted time in here. We have 7 minutes of class time. No, we don't. We get out of here at 2. So you have 17 minutes of class time. Whatever you don't finish is homework.